Hi, this is Kim from KimberlyKoehler.com, and today I have a new tutorial for you. We're going to be making these beaded daisy bracelets. So I don't usually do kind of intricate beading like this, but these are really fun and it's easy and it's super fun for spring. I made my mom one for Mother's Day and then I made myself one, and now I am kind of obsessed with this. I'm actually using the same technique to make another bracelet that is a surprise, so I can't really share it with you in case she sees this, but it is not using seed beads at all. It's using different beads and it's working great too. So instead of seed beads, there's a larger bead in the middle and then some smaller beads that are kind of pearls around the outside. And I'm using actual beading wire instead of this beading thread because it's a little bit sturdier that way, and these are pretty dainty. So what I kind of wanted to show you with this tutorial is how you can actually adjust it to your own bead. So for example, I wanted to make these bracelets. I was going to buy some new seed beads, make sure everything was perfect, and instead I realized I have a bunch of seed beads. They're not perfect, and I had to kind of figure out my own way to make this. But once I figured out how it works, then it was easy to figure out. So I'm gonna try to share that with you today so that if you have like a different bead you want to use, you don't have to just follow my exact design. You can give it a try in a different way. So these are the materials and tools you'll need to make this bracelet. So I have some beads here. These are all tiny seed beads. So I have two, these are kind of the same, and then this one's a little bit bigger. Don't feel like you need to do that. So in any case, you'll probably want the middle bead of your flower to be either a larger size than the seed beads that go around it, or the same size. You don't want the ones that go around the outside to be bigger. In this bracelet, all of the beads are the same size, and it works great too. And like I showed you in this one, the middle bead is a little bit bigger. So I'm actually making a bracelet more kind of like this one to show you. So the middle bead is a little bit larger. And then you're going to need some beading thread. So this is the thread I'm using. It's called Wildfire. It's by Bead Alone, and it's 0.15 millimeters. So it's thermally bonded bead weaving thread. So I've actually heard this most referred to as Fire Line. I think that's probably a name brand, and this is the Bead Alone name brand. This has been working great for all the bracelets I've been making, and I've been wearing them too. So I suggest this, or like I said, there's Fire Line, which is similar as well. And then also you'll need some beading needles. So this is a big eye beading needle. I really like these because, let me see, on the back there's a picture. I don't know if you can kind of see. Most of the needle is actually the eye of it, so that's open. So it's easy to kind of get the threads through it. And then I also like it because it's really flexible, which is helpful when you're doing this sort of beading project. So I do appreciate that. On the other project that I'm making with the different beads, the Secrets project, I'm just using regular 49 strand beading wire, and I'm not even using a needle because it's stiff enough to get through the beads and hold its shape, and that's working great too. So if you have like bigger beads that maybe need a little more security, then I might suggest that. But for these little dainty bracelets, the Fire Line is perfect for that. So you're also going to need a clasp, and you're going to need some sort of loop for the other side. So these are jump rings that are soldered together, so there's no opening in these. And I kind of suggest that for the purposes of this, so the thread doesn't slip through the opening. So sometimes a lobster clasp will come with the other side of the lobster clasp with it, that should be fine. Mine did not come that way, so I'm using jump rings. Like I said, they're soldered so the wire won't slip through. I also think it's helpful to have crimp beads. So these are just little beads that we're going to crimp to hold everything together. We're going to knot it, but I also like the extra security of a crimp bead. And then, so on each end, what I like to do is use the soldered jump rings, and then I add the clasp. I'll show you. But then I also have some other jump rings that do actually open in. And then the tools you'll need are a pair of scissors to cut your fire line, your beading thread. You'll need a crimp tool, or if you don't have a crimp tool, you can use pliers. Use a crimp tool if you have it though. And then to open the jump rings, you'll also need chain nose pliers and then a pair of bent nose pliers. We're going to get started by cutting our beading thread, and I usually cut about 4 times as much as you need. So 4 times the length of like the bracelet. So if you're making a 7-inch bracelet, you'd want about 28 inches. And don't feel bad about using too much, because it's better to have too much than not enough, and then you get to the end and there's nothing you can do about it. Alright, so I switched surfaces because my thread is white and my background was white, and I realized that's going to be hard to see. So we're just going to do this on my wood table here. So what I'm going to do is kind of put this thread in half, because we're actually going to double it. And so this is one of my soldered jump rings. So I'm just going to put the bent end through here. And then we're going to bring the other end through. I'm just basically knotting this on here to start, so it's secure on here. Okay, and then on the other end, where the ends are here, we're going to thread that into our needle. So you can kind of just stick your fingernail kind of in between to get it open. And you can kind of see how far you can get it open because it's pretty flexible. And we're going to put our 2 ends through and just pull it down a little bit, because we already have it doubled, so this is just to kind of hold it through the needle here. So now we are going to add the crimp bead. So I just picked it up with the needle. We're going to slide it all the way down to the end here, and then we're going to take our crimp tool. So the crimp tool has 2 spots, one closer to the handle, one further away. So the first thing you do is you crimp it with the spot that's closer to the handle, and then you put it in the spot that's closer to the tip. And so it's already crimped closed, and then this kind of folds it in half. So if you don't have a crimp tool and you're just using pliers, you just want to smash it closed and then try to fold it in half. Okay, and now we can just start beading. So I like to start, so it depends what you want. So for this bracelet, we started with 3 beads in a row before we started our daisies. And this one I did 5. I kind of like the vibe of 5. So that's what I'm going to do here. So if you just kind of dip your needle in and grab the beads, it gets easier as you go along. So I'm starting with green. You can do this with any color though, really. So I did green, and now we're going to start with the petals. So this is where you kind of have to experiment a little bit. So I'm going to start by grabbing 4 of whatever the petal bead color is. So for me it's this white, and then grab your middle. Actually, I'm going to do 5, I forgot. So if your beads are the same, I would start with 4 and see how that goes. My center bead is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do 5, and then we're going to put the center bead on. Move that out of the way. Now we're going to take our needle and we're going to go back up through. So from kind of the bottom up, that first white bead, the first petal bead, and then you pull it through, and then when you pull it tightly, you get half of your flower. So if it covers like half of that bead and looks like half a flower, then you're in a pretty good shape for your flower, and you probably chose the right amount of beads for the first part. If not, you can actually just pull it apart. It's really easy to just either slide it back over the needle or just take the needle off the thread and just slide all your beads back off. I promise you it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're going to do it this one time. Once you get this figured out, then you can move on. But from my experimenting, if your beads are kind of the same size, 4 beads to start, and then your center bead seems to work, and then you're going to do 4 more. Or, in my case, I have a larger bead and I used 5 of the smaller seed beads. Okay, I'll pull this back over, and then we're going to add 4 to 5 more seed beads. So I'm going to start with 4, and I'm going to just show you. So I'm just going to slide it down, and before we do anything, I'm just going to kind of pull this around without actually committing to see if this is going to work to go around. So actually the 4 beads seems about right. We're going to take the beads, so now I have it in my hand like this, and this last bead, this top bead here, we're just going to slide the needle back through. Oops, and complete the daisy. So just pull everything tightly, and then just make sure you like how it is, because you want to fix it now before we move on, and I'm happy with that. So we're just going to continue this. So again, 5 of the green beads, or kind of the stem beads, whatever color you're using. And you don't even have to actually think of this as a flower. You could think of it as just like a funky design and use literally any color. So pull those down, and then whatever the pattern you decided. So if you forgot, like I did, we're just going to count. So I was using 5 on one side and 4 on the other, so we're going to do 5 of the petal beads, so my white ones. And mine, my beads aren't all uniform. They're kind of all different sizes. So you can either be frustrated by that, or just think about in nature how things are not always perfect either. So why should this be? So I did the 5 beads, the 1 big bead, and now we're going back through that first top seed bead here. So we're just going up through and then pull, and then I'm going to do 4 more, and then you can do whatever you felt was appropriate for your flower. Just pull them on, and then we go back through that's what is now the top bead. So that first bead as it comes out of the middle bead. So we're basically completing a circle around that middle bead. So pull that through to just pull this tight. Okay, so if you kind of get, so I got a little separated here. just work it down. Okay, so there's the second one. So we're just going to keep doing this until it gets to the length that we want, and then I'll show you how to end it. Okay, so I finished the beading portion of the bracelet, and I invite you to think about this as a really meditative, calming, relaxing task you can do. You could listen to a podcast, or you could watch TV, or you could just maybe bead and kind of relax for a little bit. But that's up to you. So I ended with the 5 kind of stem beads, and so now we're going to finish this off. So I need a crimp bead, so we're going to put a crimp bead on. Just going to grab one here with my needle. Alrighty. And so we're just going to slide that on. We will deal with that in just a moment. And then I have another one of the jump rings that is soldered, so the thread won't go through it because there's no opening. And then this, I think, is the most complicated portion of this whole bracelet. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to really show you very well on video, but we're going to give it a try. So we're going to knot it, and we're going to knot it before we actually close the crimp bead. So I'm going to make a little knot here all the way at the top. So I just like to leave the needle on while I do this, so I'm just going to go around, just making a, a regular overhand knot here, and then through. And then as I pull it tight, you just want to pull everything together. Make sure this whole thing is, beaded tightly. There's no gaps. And then we're just going to kind of pull it. You can use your needle even to help you. If you put the needle kind of through the knot, then as you pull, you can pull down the knot close to the crimp bead that you just placed. Yeah, it's easier said than done. Okay, and then we're just going to do a second knot. Kind of the same way here. Back up through and just get it to the top of the beads here. Oops. And pull it tight. Okay, so not perfect, but it will do the trick. So it's hard to see, but I probably would prefer to have it a little bit closer, but we're just going to call that good. The alternative is we could rebead the whole thing. Oops, and I bent my needle, so we're just going to straighten that out. Now we're just going to go through, so we're going to take our needle, we're going to bring that thread through the crimp bead, and then through a few of the first seed beads. Just pull that through, and then we're going to close the crimp bead. Now be careful when you do this. My last one, I broke the seed bead here, so just be careful. So again, you just smush it flat with the kind of the notch that's closer to the handle, and then you fold it in half with the notch closer to the tip. And then I just like to pull and make sure it's secure. And then we're just going to trim off the excess thread here. So let's pull it real close, trim it off. Okay, so now we have these two ends and we can add a lobster clasp or any clasp you like. And I wanted to show you the reason why I do two of these jump rings that are soldered at the ends instead of just adding a clasp is because I did that on this one and then the clasp broke. So now I have to rebead this whole thing again. But if I had just used a jump ring on the end, I could just replace the clasp. So we're going to open up a jump ring. So this is a regular jump ring, a non-soldered one. So you probably already know how to do this, but if you don't, I'm using bent nose pliers in one hand, chain nose pliers in the other hand. They're on either side. Right in the middle is where the opening is. We're going to move one toward us, one away from us, and then we open it. So the circle kind of stays intact, but the jump ring is open. And then we're just going to thread the jump ring on there. And then our lobster clasp. And then you just do the opposite. So chain nose pliers on one side, bent nose pliers on the other side. And then kind of go back and forth a few times. You can hear that click. It clicked into place. And we're just going to double check. And then we have a finished bracelet. And then you could actually use any clasp you like, just using a jump ring to add. And it also gives you a little bit of flexibility, so you could add more jump rings or even a little bit of an extension chain to add length to your bracelet if you needed to. You can also use this entire process to make yourself a necklace, and you just have to have longer thread to begin with, and probably, you know, you might want to make your spacer beads in between, maybe use a little more, but I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you just really love making these daisies, so you just keep going all the way around. So I think this is a really fun bracelet for spring. If you happen to love flowers like I do and being outside in nature, then you're probably going to love this bracelet. I also have this great workshop I just revamped and put on my brand new website called the Nature Jewelry Workshop, and it's so much fun. You get a creativity booster, which is part 1. Part 2 is jewelry skills lessons, so you're going to learn some lessons that you're going to use to make the jewelry projects. So then part 3, of course, is jewelry projects, and there are 5 in this one. You are going to learn how to wire wrap rocks, among other things, so you can kind of take nature and wear it with you wherever you are. So you can learn more about that in the link below this video, and I hope you'll check it out. If that's not for you, I'd love it if you just join my newsletter and get my, well, I was going to say weekly, but I haven't been very good about that, so get my newsletter as often as I send it with new tutorials and creativity tips and jewelry making tips. So until next time, I will see you then. Bye.